Chapter 1. The sessions weren't helping, but I kept hoping. I never thought I'd be the kind of person who needed couples therapy. Not because I thought our marriage was perfect, God no, but because I thought I could fix it. I was the fixer, always had been. I learned how to tiptoe around silence, how to keep the peace, how to shrink myself into the version of me he liked best. We'd been married for 6 years when I first suggested therapy. It was after a dinner at my parents' house, where he completely ignored me, talked over me 3 times, and made a joke about how some women just can't let things go. I remember laughing too loudly, cheeks burning, pretending it didn't sting. That night, I asked him if we could see someone. He shrugged and said, "If it'll make you stop complaining, sure." That's how we met Mary, and she was calm. Almost too calm. Soft voice, soothing office, always lighting the same lavender candle before each session. She listened more than she spoke, which I liked at first. I figured she was gathering context, letting us fill the space, but early on I noticed something odd. Whenever I'd bring up something he'd said, something cutting or manipulative, she'd tilt her head and ask me how I responded. Always me. And when I said I shut down, she'd smile slightly and ask, "And what did that feel like, to shut down?" The first few sessions felt like walking in circles. I'd leave drained, confused, and weirdly guilty. Like I'd failed some test I didn't know I was taking. Still, I kept hoping. I told myself therapy takes time. That maybe this discomfort was part of the healing. That Marianne just had an unconventional style, but then things started shifting. Little by little, she began to echo things he said, things I knew weren't fair. Once, when I brought up how he kept moving our money into separate accounts without telling me, she said, "That sounds like a boundary. Do you feel afraid of boundaries?" Afraid?
No.
Betrayed? Yes, but I didn't say that. I just nodded, confused, and looked at the painting behind her, some generic ocean scene. I started doing that a lot. Staring past her. Detaching. That I should have known then, but I didn't want to be that wife. The one who gives up. The one who quits before trying everything. That I told my best friend, Melissa, about it over lunch one afternoon. She said what? Melissa asked, fork midair. She asked if I was afraid of boundaries. I repeated, laughing in that way that's not really laughter. Melissa raised an eyebrow. That's not therapy, babe. That's deflection. But I still went to the next session, and the one after that, because something inside me believed that if I just said it the right way, if I presented my pain perfectly, someone would finally listen. Maybe even him. That I didn't realize then that I was trying to earn basic empathy. That's not love. That's survival. And when I think about that now, it makes my stomach twist. Because back then, I didn't know what I was trapped in, and IT would take just one sentence, one small sentence in front of my husband, to shatter every illusion I had about healing in that room. But we weren't there yet. We were still pretending it was about communication, still pretending it was a partnership, still pretending I was the only one who needed to change. Chapter 2. You sound controlling. And that's when I froze the session where everything began to tilt. Happened on a Tuesday afternoon. I remember because I almost canceled. I was sitting in my car outside Marianne's office, hands on the steering wheel, staring at my reflection in the rearview mirror. My eyes looked tired in a way sleep couldn't fix. There was a faint line between my brows I didn't remember earning. Did I told myself, asterisk, just one more session. Be honest. Say it clearly. Asterisk inside. Marianne lit the lavender candle, like always. The same ritual. The same calm. My husband leaned back into the couch, arms crossed, relaxed, almost bored. He always looked that way in therapy, like this was something happening to him, not because of him. Marianne smiled at both of us. "So," she said gently, "what feels most present today?" I took a breath. I'd rehearsed this. "I feel like I don't have a voice in this marriage," I said. "When I try to talk about something that hurts me, it turns into a joke. Or I'm told I'm too sensitive. And lately, I've stopped bringing things up at all." My husband exhaled through his nose. A half laugh. "That's not true," he said. "You bring things up all the time. That's the problem." Marianne turned to him, nodding slowly. "Go on." Something in my chest tightened. He leaned forward now, energized. "She micromanages everything. How I spend money. How I talk. What I say around her family. It's exhausting. I opened my mouth to respond, but Marian raised a hand, softly, politely. Let's pause, she said, then looked directly at me. And how does it feel, she asked, to hear that you might be controlling? The word hit me like cold water. Asterisk controlling. Asterisk I blinked. I don't think I'm controlling. I think I'm asking for respect. Marianne tilted her head. That same thoughtful gesture. Sometimes, she said, carefully, when we feel unsafe emotionally, we try to regain control. It can come across as pressure. I felt my face heat up. I'm not trying to control him, I said. I'm trying to feel heard. My husband shrugged. That's what I mean. Everything's about how she feels. Marian nodded again. That's interesting, she said. Because what I'm hearing is a pattern where you struggle to tolerate discomfort, and so you escalate. I stared at her. Escalate? I looked at my husband, waiting, hoping for him to say something. To correct her. To defend me even a little. Instead, he smiled. Not a big smile. Just enough. That was the moment something inside me went quiet. Marian leaned back in her chair, folding her hands. Have you ever considered, she said, that maybe you're contributing more to the conflict than you realize? I felt frozen. Like my body was still there, but my mind had stepped back. I came here because he shuts me down, I said slowly. Because I feel small in this marriage. And yet, she replied, you're doing a lot of the talking right now. My husband chuckled. It was subtle. But I saw it. I felt my throat tighten, eyes stinging. I wanted to disappear. I wanted to rewind the last 10 minutes and choose different words. Softer words. Better words. I don't feel safe bringing things up anymore, I said quietly. Every time I do, it gets turned back on me. Marian looked at me for a long moment, then she said it. Well, maybe you're the problem. The room went silent. I swear I could hear the hum of the air vent. The crackle of the candle, and my husband didn't say a word. He just leaned back again, satisfied that I nodded. I don't know why. Reflex, maybe. Years of agreeing to survive. Okay, I whispered. Marian smiled, like she'd helped me reach a breakthrough. We ended the session shortly after. She suggested I do some journaling about control before our next appointment, and I walked to my car in a daze. Sat there for a long time without starting the engine. Something was wrong. Not with me, with this. That night, I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I didn't even talk about it. I opened my laptop and typed one sentence into the search bar, asterisk, asterisk. Is it normal for a therapist to take sides? And that was the first time I realized I wasn't crazy. Not even close. Chapter 3. My husband's smile said it. Ali didn't tell my husband how much that session rattled me. Not right away, on the drive home. He talked like nothing had happened. He mentioned stopping by the grocery store, complained about traffic, asked what I wanted for dinner. His voice was light, relaxed, almost cheerful. I watched his reflection in the windshield as he spoke. The same mouth that had curved into that small, satisfied smile when Marian said it. Asterisk, maybe you're the problem star. That smile stayed with me. That night, while he showered, I replayed the session in my head. Every word, every pause. I tried to figure out where I'd gone wrong. How my attempt to explain my pain had somehow turned into a diagnosis of my character. When he came into the bedroom, towel around his waist, he said casually, "You know, I think she's right." My chest tightened. About what? He shrugged, opening a drawer. About you needing to look at your part in things. I sat up in bed. My part. Yeah, he said. You do have a tendency to make everything about you. Even therapy. There it was, not concern, not partnership, confirmation that I felt something harden inside me, not anger exactly. Clarity. Over the next few days, I started paying attention in a way I hadn't before. Not just to what he said, but to how things unfolded. When I apologized, the tension eased. When I questioned him, it escalated. When I doubted myself, he relaxed. And during our next therapy session, I noticed something else. Marian never challenged him, not once. When he interrupted me, she redirected me to be more concise. When he minimized something I'd said, she reframed it as a misunderstanding. When I went quiet, She called it avoidance. I started feeling sick before each appointment. My stomach would knot as soon as I turned onto her street point one afternoon. While waiting in the lobby, I overheard her through the thin wall, laughing warmly with another client. She sounded different, engaged, alive. With me, she was clinical, observational, distant. That's when the doubt turned into something else. Suspicion. I began keeping notes after each session. Nothing dramatic, just dates, phrases, moments that stood out. Asterisk, you struggle with emotional regulation. Have you considered why you need so much reassurance? Your husband seems very patient. Asterisk patient. The word made my jaw clenched. Home. My husband grew bolder. He started using therapy language against me. You're projecting. You're being reactive. This is your anxiety talking. Once, during an argument, he said, even Mary Ann sees it. You don't listen. That night, I locked myself in the bathroom and cried into a towel so he wouldn't hear me that I wasn't crying because I believed him. I was crying because I finally understood what was happening. Therapy hadn't been helping us communicate. IT had been giving him tools, and it had been giving her cover. A few weeks later, something small but decisive happened. I was folding laundry when he walked by and said, almost offhandedly, I don't think we need to keep going forever. I mean, you've got a lot to work through. Maybe individual therapy would be better for you. For me, that night, while he slept, I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop open, the house silent except for the hum of the fridge. I looked up Mary Ann's credentials, her license number, her affiliations, then I searched for ethical guidelines. What I found made my hands tremble. Asterisk, dual alliances. Asterisk, failure to maintain neutrality. Asterisk, invalidation of emotional abuse. Asterisk, I wasn't imagining it. There were words for what I'd been experiencing, and rules she was breaking. I closed the laptop and stared into the dark. I wasn't ready to confront anyone yet, but I was done being passive. The smile my husband had worn in that session, so sure, so pleased, it had given him away, and I knew then, with absolute certainty, if I was going to be painted as the problem, I would make sure the truth was documented. The next session would not go the way they expected. Chapter 4. I pressed play and watched everything crack the night before our next session. I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed, eyes open in the dark, rehearsing every sentence, every possibility. There were too many ways it could be twisted again. Too many ways I could be made to doubt myself. But I had something new now. Proof. The idea had come to me slowly, after weeks of rereading the notes I took after each session. I hadn't originally planned to record anything. It felt wrong at first. But then I asked myself, what feels more wrong? Recording this or staying silent while someone rewrites my story in front of me? So, I did a 0.2 sessions back. I had pressed record on my phone and left it in my coat pocket on the chair beside me. Just once. Just enough. The audio was crisp, every word captured, including the moment Mary Ann said, well, maybe you're the problem. It wasn't just what she said. IT was the tone, flat, clinical, almost indifferent, and my husband's laugh right after. I must have replayed it 20 times in the following days. Not to convince myself, but to remind myself. Asterisk, this happened. This is real. You are not exaggerating. Asterisk, the session began like all the others. Lavender candle. Soft lighting. Warm voice. Let's check in, Mary Ann said. How has the week been for both of you? My husband spoke first, as usual. She's been distant, he said. Quiet. She's always in her head. I kept my eyes on my hands. Do you feel like you're withdrawing emotionally? Mary Ann asked, turning to me. I looked up slowly. Actually, I said, I've been doing a lot of thinking. Her eyes narrowed, just slightly. About patterns, I said. And language. And ethics. That made her blink. My husband shifted in his seat. What are you talking about? I reached into my bag and pulled out my phone. I didn't look at either of them as I opened the voice memo app. I'd like to play something, I said calmly. From our session 2 weeks ago. Mary Ann's face went stilled. My husband scoffed. You recorded us? I didn't answer. I hit play. The room filled with her voice. Her exact words. the moment she asked, have you ever considered that maybe you're the problem? And my husband's chuckle after. The silence that followed, I let it run another 10 seconds. Then I paused, and no one spoke. Marianne looked pale. My husband's mouth was slightly opened and I cleared my throat. You've repeatedly redirected my concerns back onto me. You've reframed emotional abuse as communication failure. You've consistently minimized my experience in this room. And you've created an environment where I feel outnumbered in a space meant for healing. Still silence. I've documented more than just that session, I added. I've kept notes. Time-stamped. I've researched your professional ethics board. Finally, Marianne spoke. Her voice was tight. You are not authorized to record. That's not illegal in this state. I interrupted. Only one-party consent is required. She blinked, flustered. My husband turned to me, eyes wide. You planned this? Yes, I said. Marianne leaned forward. I understand you're upset, but this is not the appropriate way to process. I'm not processing, I said. I'm protecting myself. The quiet that followed wasn't awkward. It was heavy. Dense. Reeled, and my husband started to speak, but I stood up. I won't be returning to this office, I said. Not as a couple. Not ever. I've already contacted a licensed trauma-informed therapist to work with individually. One who understands the dynamics of emotional manipulation. I looked straight at Marianne. And I'll be sending a letter to your licensing board this afternoon. With supporting documentation. Her mouth opened, but nothing came out. I didn't need her to respond. I picked up my bag, walked to the door, and paused. For what it's worth, I said without turning around, I really wanted this to work. Then I left, and my hands were shaking. My heart was pounding, but for the first time in months, I didn't feel crazy, I felt awake. Chapter 5. The letter I sent changed her career forever. I didn't send the letter right away. After I left Marianne's office, I sat in my car for almost an hour, hands gripping the steering wheel, chest rising and falling like I'd just run a mile. Adrenaline has a strange way of disguising itself as clarity. I wanted to be sure this wasn't that. I went home. I made tea. I took a shower. I let the shaking pass. Then I sat at the kitchen table, opened my laptop, and began again, slowly, deliberately. I wrote the letter the same way I'd learned to survive my marriage, carefully, precisely, with facts instead of feelings. Dates, quotes, patterns, context. I attached the audio file. I attached my notes. I referenced the ethical standards she was required to uphold. I didn't insult her. I didn't speculate about her motives. I just told the truth. When I hit send, I expected to feel relief. What I felt instead was grief, because reporting her meant admitting something I'd resisted for months, that the space I'd trusted to help me had done harm, that someone with power had misused it, and that I had stayed longer than I should have, hoping it would change. The board acknowledged receipt within a week, and my husband noticed the shift in me almost immediately. I stopped explaining myself. I stopped defending my tone. When he tried to provoke arguments using therapy language, I didn't engage. You're being cold, he said one night. No, I replied. I'm being done. We separated 3 weeks later. Individual therapy, real therapy, felt nothing like what I'd experienced before. My new therapist didn't tell me who I was. She asked. She listened. She named things gently but clearly. Emotional coercion, she said during our 3rd session. Gaslighting, she said during our 4th. You adapted to survive, she said when I cried. 6 months passed. Then one afternoon, an unfamiliar number appeared on my phone. It was a representative from the licensing board. She thanked me for my patience. She told me the investigation had concluded. They couldn't share details, but they could tell me this. Disciplinary action had been taken. Marianne's license was suspended pending further review and mandatory retraining. Multiple complaints had surfaced during the investigation. Mine hadn't been the only one. I hung up and sat very still. I didn't feel victorious. I felt settled. Later that evening, my ex-husband texted me. I heard about Mary, and he wrote. That was extreme. I stared at the message for a long time. Then I deleted it, because here's the truth no one tells you. Reclaiming your voice doesn't always look loud. Sometimes it looks like documentation, boundaries, walking away without one last speech. Sometimes it looks like pressing play. I didn't ruin her career. I didn't destroy my marriage, that I stopped protecting systems that were hurting me. And the day I realized that, really realized it, was the day I stopped wondering if maybe I'd been the problem all along, that I never was.